Soup, you ready?
Yes, I.
Yeah, man, we're excited. Our guest tonight, author Gary James, was one of our first guests when we started this show back in April, and he's back again. And there he is, right there. So how you doing tonight?
Good, brother.
Okay.
I appreciate that poem too. That was pretty deep.
Yes.
I.
You know, I'm gonna have to come back on another occasion and talk about that heavy stuff with you.
Okay, no problem.
Now, you're gonna have to hold our mic a little closer to get the best sound there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, he's back, and we want to say thank you again for coming out and blessing us again with your knowledge, your wisdom. And as I see when you came in the door here, you had a book in your hand.
Yes, indeed, my brother. Since I'm a regular here now, I just wanted to bless you with an exclusive, which is my most recent publication, Black Politics 2.0.
There it is right there. Okay.
And so I want to give you this exclusive heads up to you and your audience.
Okay.
And perhaps we could talk a little bit about the substance of the book.
Okay.
But
I got a silly question to ask you. What happened to 1.0?
that's a good point. 1.0 I discuss in the book
Okay.
is what we have been doing
Okay.
as black folk. We have been engaged in politics 1.0. And while 1.0 has at least got or generated some success, and perhaps the most obvious success is the fact that we have the first African American president.
Yes.
But it was based upon, and his victory was based upon Politics 101. And in fact, the book discusses politics, or the state of black politics, prior to and during the political advent of President Barack Obama. So his picture graces the cover of the book, and the substance of the book talks about Politics 101, my brother.
Okay.
And our objective in writing the book, Black Politics 2.0, is to perhaps inspire a broad-based dialogue on how we as black folk move politics forward in the 21st century. Obviously, Politics 201 is now generating diminishing returns. So it is incumbent upon us, and those of us who appreciate the fact that we are going nowhere on the political trajectory that we have been engaged. So therefore, it's about time to explore a more sophisticated application of electoral politics to better advance our interests in the 21st century. And we posit that Politics 101 is insufficient for generating positive results and advancing the cause of the black community in the 21st century. So, so that's where we are, and that's why I wanted to give you an exclusive on the book. And also, I think I'd like to give an exclusive a little further, in that the manuscript for the book, although the book will be officially released next month, the first week in October, I'd like to give you a heads up on the book and advise you that the manuscript of the book is available for reading and download on my site, which is www.blackpolitics2.com. That's blackpolitics2.com.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody mention a website as triple W. It's www, but I guess that's three W's.
That's three W's.
Triple double.
Blackpolitics.com.
Yeah, blackpolitics2, number 2.
The number 2.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are invited to check it out, and perhaps since I'm a regular, I'll be a regular here
Definitely.
on the show. We could, in the future, look forward to developing that broad-based dialogue.
Okay. Gary, can I ask you a quick question though?
Sure.
What made you go into black? What made you write this book, Black Politics 2.0? Well, what inspired you to go this route?
I like that question, bro.
Actually, plus, were you working on this when you came here the first time, or this is something that came about?
Actually, I was working on this book when I moved down here,
Okay.
which was about 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
But what happened when I moved down, I knew that my father and grandparents were Crucian and born here. So when I first relocated, I began to do some research on my family ancestry at the WIM Museum. And I had this book and another book on the table. I was in the process of writing the manuscripts. But I was so impressed and riveted by the information that I found at the WIM library
Okay.
that I had to put the books aside, and I wrote another book, which is called Transfer Day. And as you know, Transfer Day occurred in March of 1917 when the United States bought what was then known as the Danish West Indies, and which is now known as the Virgin Islands of the United States. So Transfer Day was that idea, that name was completely new to me. I had never heard of Transfer Day. So I was intrigued by that information. And when I began to research further, my mind was just absolutely blown, and I was riveted to the research. Specifically, I found out that my roots go real deep. My great-great-grandfather was born into slavery in 1825, and he worked as a cooper on the state hermitage where he lived with his parents.
Right.
So that was absolutely a mind blower for me, because I hadn't known that my grandfather was the youngest of 5 siblings. And he and his wife, my grandmother, and my father and aunt migrated from St. Croix in 1925 to New York.
Okay.
And so that was the extent of my knowledge of my roots on the island. My grandfather never returned, nor did my grandmother or father. So I always had a curiosity
Okay.
within me about St. Croix. And as I began to reach middle age, I figured it was about time for me to explore my roots.
Yes.
And so in addition to finding out my ancestral roots here on the island, I was blown away by some other information that I found out, which included Transfer Day, Emancipation Day, Contract Day, D. Hamilton Jackson, Casper Holstein, all of these names of men and women who were born in St. Croix,
Yes.
in the Virgin Islands, who made major contributions to the advancement of politics, culture, and social development in the States. And that was completely unknown to me. All of that was completely unknown to me until I relocated here and began doing that research. So what I had to do, I had to put this book aside, the two books aside that I was in the process of completing, and I took on another project which resulted in a book that was released last September called Transfer Day. But since that release, I started a second edition to the book, because the first edition I was really emotionally involved, and I recorded quite a bit of stuff and developed a story around my family ancestry and what I knew of the political social situation here on the island. But as I began to move into my 4.5 and 5th year, I realized that the book was void of a practical context in terms of what was going on now.
Okay.
And how it impacted my worldview of Africa and the African diaspora, and the role that the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean played in the diasporic and dispersion of black folk in America,
In America,
the USA.
okay.
And so that was quite an exercise and a revelation to me. And so I managed to finish the book. I was relieved when it was finished,
Yes.
because I had these two other books
Still waiting.
still waiting.
Still waiting. Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I did. And then when I completed this and the next book, I realized that Transfer Day was void of context, and I was so much entertained and informed of local politics that I just had to prepare a second edition to the book.
You said entertained, eh?
Yeah. Oh, I'm thoroughly entertained, my brother. Believe me, and it's a serious learning curve as well.
Yes,
There's
yes.
some similarities as well as differences between the politics that black folk do here and in the States, and I'll probably be able to touch on that briefly during our session here tonight. But that was really the impetus for me to put these books down and begin to understand my family heritage and the role of the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean in the whole African diaspora. So just to give you another heads up, another exclusive, the second edition of Transfer Day, the subtitle is America's Colonial Possession. So that's the name of it. Transfer Day, subtitled America's Colonial Possession.
Okay.
So that is the essential context in which I'm developing the second
The second
edition.
book, yeah.
Yeah.
How did the first one? How was the response from the territory with the first book?
Oh, it was quite interesting. The response here and there.
Okay.
You know, and when I say there, I mean in
the States. Yes.
You know, many people were as amazed as I was about the history that I developed in the narrative of the book, because they didn't know the individuals and the concepts of transfer day, emancipation day, and so forth,
Right.
as I didn't. So they were particularly informed about that, and it was a great conversation piece, because in the States, I grew up in the Bronx, living in the Bronx, Queens, and in Harlem.
Yes.
Excuse me. And when I grew up during the 50s, the numbers game, or policy as they call it legally, was a big deal in New York City and all black communities.
Yes.
You know, the numbers game was really an informal economy that helped to finance families all across America, black families.
Yes.
You know, because while there weren't jobs, you can get a job writing numbers.
Yes.
So what I found interesting was when I was in New York, a friend of mine whose father was a numbers runner, I had asked him, you know, who invented numbers? How did that actually come about?
Yes.
And he told me that it was a West Indian guy, you know, invented the numbers. And I also talked to a mentor of mine about it, and he mentioned the name of Caspar Holstein. And that didn't ring a bell until I came down here and realized that Caspar Holstein was a Crucian. Caspar Holstein was born in St. Croix.
Yes.
And has a phenomenal history as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist, and many other positive things.
Right.
During the 19th century. He played a magnificent role in the development of the Union here under D. Hamilton Jackson. And, you know, in addition to the fact that he developed the numbers game,
right,
in the States. So I mentioned that in the book. And, of course, Emancipation Day, which was actually new to me as well, and I was blown away because, you know, I'm an educated guy, and I had no idea that black folks beyond the Haitians and the Haitian Revolution were able to gain their freedom on their own.
Yes.
So I was amazed to learn that in 1848 there was a major rebellion on St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, which resulted in emancipation, which occurs on July 3rd
yes,
of every year. So I was absolutely floored by this information, and I was possessed. And I couldn't do anything but put what I was doing down and begin to deal with what I was uncovering.
Okay.
And it came in the form of the book, which, again, the second edition will be out, and I'll be sure to give an exclusive to you and your audience. But getting back to your original question in terms of why I wrote this book in particular, what inspired me to do it was the fact that, well, I am an expert witness to the civil rights and the Black Power movement. You know, in 1966, I joined the staff of the National Welfare Rights Organization, and so I was a professional organizer during the 60s, and I maintained that post until 1971. So I saw the civil rights movement from the inside as a professional organizer, as well as I saw the emergence of the Black Power movement, which I had a particular affinity to because I was a youth during that time. So, and what I was really impressed with was the fact that being there and seeing what I saw and realizing politics such as it is today, particularly in Black America, although not only in Black America, in America in general.
Right.
I was impressed with the fact that what I saw and what I understood, I didn't see. I did not see a representation, an analysis of what I knew was civil rights movement and the Black Power movement as I experienced it.
Okay.
And so I was impacted by that because I saw much romance associated with the civil rights movement and much cynicism and malevolence with respect to the Black Power movement.
Right.
And so I felt that I had to reduce my experience to words and get some information out based upon my practical experience during that period. And so that was the essential motive and inspiration for me writing the book. And I do believe it's an important work because of where we are today as a Black community with respect to our politics and the fact that we seem to be stuck on politics 101. You know,
Business as usual.
yeah, business as usual. You know, but just to digress a little further, in general, electoral politics, as we Black folks engage it today, is an emotional exercise. It does not really address the notion of how politics works. We have pretty much bought into the fact that Democrats are friends and Republicans are enemies. And that defies analysis, you see. And we have been engaged in that
Hey
process.
guys, it's Megan and Liz, and we are.
My experience, which is, like I said, has been in the 1960s.
Right.
Is my mic still good?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So that is a real problem, you know. And just generally speaking, politics, in my view, is about advancing the permanent interests of a community. And you use the electoral political process to do that, to advance your community's interests. Now, during the civil rights era, our interests as Black folks were advanced by the civil rights movement in that Black folk, by and large, did not vote because of Jim Crow, because of the lynchings and so forth and so on. And so we were pretty much removed. We removed ourselves from politics because of intimidation and terrorism, you see. So that changed when white liberals in the Democratic Party, in their quest for control of the Democratic Party, they defied the conventional wisdom of the conservative Democrats.
Right.
The conservative Democrats ran the party. The conservative Democrats were essentially racist, white supremacists. And the South was the bastion of this white supremacy and democratic conservative rule. And so, primarily in the North, you had this emergence of liberalism. And so, in order for the liberals to advance themselves within the Democratic Party and wrest control from the conservatives, there was precarious marriage, if not relationship, between the liberals and the emerging black political consciousness.
Okay.
And so, to make a long story short, black folks were embraced by white liberals. We were taught political activism. We were taught how the process worked
Right.
from their standpoint. And we, by way of infiltration and sit-ins and demonstrations, which were essentially to advance civil rights of black folk,
Right.
the liberal wing of the Democratic Party ultimately wrested control of the party from the conservative wing of the party. So the white conservatives migrated to the Republican Party. And so that is essentially what happened within the political parties, Democrat and Republican, within contemporary history, which brings us to where we are today. And where we are today is the fact that Democrats are perceived as friends of black folk, whereas Republicans are perceived as the enemy of black folk. And that worked then. Now, in this 21st century and today, that formulation cannot advance the permanent interests of black folk on the mainland or in the Virgin Islands here.
Right.
The parties have to take on the indigenous objectives and formulations here in the Virgin Islands and move away from the conventional state of Democratic and Republican parties and issues. But I don't actually see that occurring here, just as I don't see that occurring
In the mainland?
in the States, in the mainland. In the mainland, we are still engaged in emotional politics, you see. And the tragedy is now civil rights, whereas it was able to move the interests of black folk forward during the civil rights era, the 60s and early 70s. Civil rights as it is currently defined and constituted cannot help move black folk from point A to point A, from point A to point B now. Civil rights is now is essentially social justice, you know, which is laudable, but it is not peculiar to black folk as it was
Back
during
then,
the early days.
yes.
Now it's peculiar to all minorities, all political minorities.
Politicals and non-politicals.
Yes,
They have all the,
absolutely. You know.
they include other sexual genders and
Yeah.
And
Well, see, they define that into minorities. You know, that's what's so sophisticated about how the political process is. Women, including white women,
Right.
are defined as minorities. Therefore, women have advanced vis-a-vis affirmative action and other
right.
areas more than black folk because women have been organized as a minority. Just as Hispanics are a minority, Asians are a
Right.
minority, gays are a minority,
Yes.
LGBT and trans,
That
all
was
of
all the
these
transgender-
are minorities.
transgenders.
Right. And so the unique needs of the African American community here and there cannot be met now
That's right.
with the civil rights agenda.
Right.
But there's quite a bit of confusion that is promoted around that. And so we have a civil rights industry that is peopled by quote unquote black leaders, you see. And that civil rights industry perpetuates certain ideas that can never embrace the 21st century needs of the African American community
Right.
here or there. Therefore, we have to rethink politics, how we have used politics in history, how politics is in general within itself, how sophisticated it is, and how we need to view politics holistically
Right.
and not drink the Kool-Aid and fall into the vision of the party, partisan,
Partisan.
you see. And that is a major part of our dilemma going forward. And unless we begin to appreciate the shortcomings associated with how we have been doing politics for the past 50 or 60 years, we will remain the political weakling as compared to other political minorities in this country.
Right.
And it's ironic because black folks are the oldest minority, and it still can be argued that black folks are the most predominant minority,
Yes.
you know, although that's not the popular perception. But the fact remains, apart from the fact that we were the longest living here,
Yes.
and the other, and the most numerous, compared to other political minorities, black folks are political weaklings in terms of political leverage, because we don't have political leverage, and leverage is how the political process works. And we can't leverage the party if we are all in the
Yes.
Democratic Party. If we are all within the Democratic Party, we are only pawns, you see. And what makes it worse, if we're in the party and we don't design the party policy positions that reflect our peculiar needs, you know, particularly here in the Virgin Islands, there are peculiar needs to this community, as well as in the States. And so politics have to be viewed in a holistic way so that we can influence policy positions in the party, you know. But the way we have been oriented toward political power as such, it is a very difficult, if not impossible, road to hoe.
So Gary,
Right.
how do we get our permanent issues on the table for the agenda for the politicians them to go forward with? How do we get a permanent interest in insight to make it start to be benefiting to us?
Well, that is perhaps the most important question. And there is no silver bullet. There's no push button control. It is a process of understanding how the political process works and organizing ourselves as a community to engage politics in such a way that we can manipulate and develop policy positions. Now, within both parties.
Right.
Now, that's easy to say. It's obviously much harder to do because you would be swimming upstream.
Yes.
But it's not impossible to do if we understand the ingredients that enable a community to develop and manipulate its politics.
Right.
And perhaps the most important component to developing self-reliant politics is economics. You know, a friend of mine used to say, without bread, a stud can't even rule an anthill. And so we have to be able to finance our politics.
Okay.
We have to finance our freedom. But we are generally not oriented to finance and business and a business culture. Black folk are generally inherently entrepreneurial, but we have de-emphasized business and business development.
Yes.
And so when we want to do stuff, we have to get it financed. And he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Yep.
So we won't be able to get on first base until we begin to understand the role that economics plays in electoral politics as well as community politics.
Right.
Because it's two different things, although we tend to merge the two and think they're interchangeable. It's two different things.
Okay.
You see, electoral politics has to do with electoral office and how you organize and deploy yourself as a community to achieve, to gain political office. Community politics does not necessarily include electoral politics.
Oh, okay.
Community politics deals with how the community is organized, you see, and how the community is self-reliant, and how we can rely on each other for certain things.
Right.
And so we have to begin to understand the dichotomy between community politics and electoral politics. Electoral politics, a certain amount of political correctness is a part of electoral politics. In community politics, electoral political correctness is wrong. Political correctness obscures the real deal, you see. And unless you can get to the real deal, you can't realistically move from point A to point B or put together a coherent strategy,
Right. To
you
go.
see, to move from point A to point B. So the main ingredients as to why we are where we are and why we continue to wallow in our state of political despair is because we don't do political business. We are not in a position to do political investment banking in our community. And so we are in a position that is inimical to moving forward politically. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that has to be done. But as I said, the first step is understanding the role that economics plays in the game. And then you have to understand how politics is organized, you know, what it is and what it is not, you know. And, you know, President Obama, in his victory in gaining the nomination and his presidency, first and re-election, he displayed a quality of political astuteness that was particularly unusual. And I say that because in gaining the nomination, Obama defied conventional political wisdom. When I say that, I mean he did not kiss the ring of the civil rights leadership. See, he was aware of the weakness associated with civil rights leadership, and he made a strategic decision to move around the civil rights leadership. And to put that in the capsule, all of the civil rights leadership, black leadership, elected and unelected, supported Hillary Clinton for the party's nomination. Virtually all of them.
All of them.
You see? And Obama realized that these guys were barking dogs that had no bite. And so he didn't kiss their ring, and he went around the conventional black civil rights leadership orthodoxy.
Okay.
All of them, elected and unelected, you know. And this is from the NAACP and all the civil rights organizations to Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
All of them were down with Hillary. None of them were down with Obama. See? But the point is, Obama was sophisticated enough to realize these cats can't deliver. You know? They talk a mean game, but they can't deliver. You see? And so he defied the conventional black leadership orthodoxy.
Right.
And he was able to win the nomination by going around them, because they, including the Black Caucus, they don't have any constituency. You see, they're in place as go-to guys. The powers that be pick and choose among them as their go-to guy. But they have no roots in organic leadership within their respective community.
Right.
See, they don't. I don't want to elaborate on
Yes,
that,
yes.
but I can assure you that they don't.
Okay.
You see, and the proof is Obama didn't need them to wrest the nomination from Hillary Clinton. You see, he was able to get those outside of the conventional black leadership and those white folk who realized this is the cat we need. We
Yes.
need this guy.
Yes.
You see, and so by the time of the general election, all the black guys, black political leaders had to get on board because the train was leaving the station. So that's what we have there.
Okay.
You see, and so nothing has changed since he was elected. Although there was a lot of rap about America being a non-racial democracy or post something or other. The name slips me, the term that was popularly used. But we can see that America didn't change its spots. White supremacy or cultural imperialism still exists.
Yes.
You know, perhaps even more vociferous now than before because Obama is in place, because some of the rhetoric, political rhetoric, is indeed ridiculous. You know. But that's what we have. That's what we have here. And so I was inspired to write the book, Politics 2.0.
Yes.
The status of black politics prior to and during the political advent of President Barack Obama.
Okay.
But history will most likely be kind to Obama.
Okay.
But many of us have been hard-pressed to realize that Obama is not a black leader.
I'm glad you said it.
Obama is president of the United States.
That's right.
And the United States has an agenda.
That's right.
The United States has geopolitical interests.
Right.
You see? And the president of the States has to deal with
that agenda.
That agenda. You see? So the clamor for Obama to do this and Obama to do that, and he ain't this and he ain't that, the clamor of such by black folk is misguided, misplaced, and politically ignorant.
Yes.
You see, because Obama doesn't decide what he's going to do. You see, it's the permanent interests.
That's right.
Of organized people in America that know how the political process works, and they leverage Obama to do what they will.
Right.
And that's what he must do. So instead of us engaging in the political rhetoric and the blah, 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 what we need to do generally is organize a political interest group. Like there were some guys who were taking Obama to task, very prominent guys, black intellectuals and civil rights organizations on one side or the other. But it's vociferous about Obama not having an agenda for the poor.
War.
That's not his role. That's your role.
Mm-hmm.
If you realize that he has no agenda for the poor, then you and others need to organize an interest group for the poor. But that means you got to spend money.
Got to spend that cheddar. That's right.
That requires investment banking, political investment banking on behalf of the poor.
Okay.
Poor can't do it.
Do it. Yep.
But if you're so politically hip, then you need to do it.
Right.
And so that's where we fall short on a number of issues.
Okay.
So throughout his administration, first and second term, you have black folks beating up on each other. He should do this and he should do that. Where's the black agenda? I'm putting together the black agenda.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And all of that is folly. All of that is complete folly.
Bali. Yes, sir.
You know. And the civil rights leadership can't put together a black agenda because they are not about blackness. They are about civil rights, which deals with the gamut
Gamut. Yes.
of minority concerns. And black folk happen to be one of them, so they can specialize, you see, in black folk. So the idea of civil rights leaders putting together a black agenda, if they do that, which some of them are undertaking that or they talk about that, it's suspect because it can't go anywhere.
Yes, sir.
You see, it can't go anywhere. Furthermore, one of the main things that caused me to write this book, which was a great inspiration for me to write this book, was because of the romantic rhetoric that accompanies talk about the civil rights movement and the black power movement. There's a lot of romantic rhetoric which amounts to revisionist history. It doesn't tell you what really went down.
Okay.
And what really went down was that the black civil rights leaders were positioned juxtaposed to black power. And so the media, the larger community, helped to manufacture an adversarial relationship between civil rights leaders and black power leaders. Now, that was manifest most poignantly between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Yes. Saw that
see?
very well.
Now, Martin Luther King was a civil rights leader. Malcolm X was not a civil rights leader. Malcolm X was a human rights leader.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And that came out of his own mouth. You see? And so the problem was initially that black civil rights leaders were the problem. You see? And so the blacks associated with civil rights movement got lynched,
Yes.
horses pulled on them, got water hose,
Dogs.
and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Dogs, the whole deal.
Yes.
You see? And they were nonviolent. But the youth were not buying into the nonviolent mode of the civil rights movement. I know because I was a youth and I was down with Malcolm. You know, I was a Christian, but I was down with Malcolm because I believed that we should stop singing and start swinging. That was the thing that motivated me and most of my peers, particularly in the North.
Right.
But what happened, the Black Power movement got so strong and so militant and violent and was infiltrated by communists and violence generally proliferated that the powers that be decided to embrace the civil rights leadership and help them malign black power and black militant leadership. So that's what went down. You know, the black civil rights leadership archetype was acceptable. During that time, they called them responsible Negroes, responsible Negro leadership. And the responsible Negro leadership went against black power, the militant, and the other violent components that was associated with black power. And that's a story within itself, you see. And so I touch on much of that in the book.
Okay.
And so again, I invite you and the listeners to get a sneak preview at the manuscript, which is located on my website, www or www.blackpolitics2.com. www.blackpolitics2.com.
That sounds like something James Bond would say, you know. Triple W, please.
007.
Well, Gary, it's about 9:12. So you just want to kind of like I know you can go on some more.
Yeah, I can go on some more, but I respect your admonishment, you know, for me to put a tail on it.
Yes.
And I appreciate that, and I don't want to overstay my welcome because I look forward to some follow-up visits.
Oh, of course.
With
of
you
course.
guys. I'm working on a few other projects.
Okay.
So I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share this exclusive presentation of my book on your program.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I hope that the listeners engage the website. And of course, I look forward to coming back in the near future and discussing some other projects and ideas with you and the audience. And just in closing, I'll just give you a heads up on a couple books that should be, well, they're in the process of production. So I'll be looking forward to sharing them with you, giving you at least a sneak preview.
Okay.
On my next few visits. But a few titles are, one is, of course, Transfer Day, America's Colonial Possession.
Possession, yes.
And my next book, which I'll probably talk about next time, just inspired by the poem that you opened up with. My next book is titled Magnum Opus, and it deals with the procession of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and secular power.
Okay.
So I look forward to that opportunity to share it with you.
One quick question. This book you have, is this available like at the local bookstore?
Yeah,
or?
well, officially it will be released the first week in October.
Okay.
And it will be available in bookstores and on Amazon.
Okay.
.com. And I will also have an ebook version
Okay.
of the book. And perhaps I could come and do some lectures up here on the book, and maybe some folk in your audience might be interested in inviting me or putting together a book signing.
The book signing, okay.
For a few
Definitely.
people. So I'll be happy to discuss my book in an intimate
Yes.
setting,
Setting, yes.
and we could discuss things that we don't want to discuss on the public airways.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yes, sir.
we can get deep.
Yeah, real deep, right?
We can get deep into some stuff. You know?
For sure.
And so I look forward to that. And again, thank you guys.
Gary, we thank you for gracing us with your presence, with your wisdom, your knowledge. You know, and continue to do what you're doing, because you see, like when you get into your books, you really get deep into it, and I like that. You know?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he'll be back soon. We just gotta figure it out.
You know,
But we're working on it. Trust me, we're working on it right now.
definitely.
Yes, tonight our guest is author Gary James. He has a new book out. You want to hold that book up again? Straight at the camera. Let me flip over to you there. Black Politics 2.0. That's it right there. That is his new book. It will be officially released in the first week of September.
October.
And all standard locations, Amazon, and even here at whatever that bookstore is down in Undercover Books. Yes. Okay.
Also, if I may just add,
Uh-huh.
I have a Facebook page. that
Okay.
I'm developing. It's author Gary James.
Yes, I saw that.
So you could check that out and like the page.
Yes.
sir.
All right. That's our guest tonight, author Gary James. I want to say thank you for coming out again. Gary was one of our guests early on when we started.
Not the first guest.
I think he was our first
Yes,
guest.
yes,
He was our
yes.
very first guest when we started this show
Yes.
back in April, and it's taken some time, but now we're rolling, and so he's gonna be rolling too.
Yes, sir.
That's how it goes, man. So thank you very much. We'll definitely be in touch with you real soon. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna shift some things around, and we're gonna continue on. So stand by.
Yes, sir.